It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchi, and thanks a lot for joining us. The present administration has hinged a lot of its successes on a couple of sectors, and agriculture is one of them, as well as power. Mr. President, at his inauguration in 2015, did list some of the key areas we're focusing on, the economy, of course, being an umbrella covering both power and agriculture. There has been a lot of talk about diversifying the economy, and farming, agriculture, returning to the farms, like Mr. President said, has been a huge part of that drive. But we haven't been encouraged by a lot of the things we've seen, especially in the power sector. Agriculture seems to be off and on for a lot of people. And in the last couple of days, we did hear that the ministers for agriculture as well as power have been dismissed from office by Mr. President. We're going to be talking about all that and more on Rubbin Minds today. I'm joined now by Adeola Yusuf. He's an energy policy analyst. Thanks for being here today. And of course, Shola Kolawole Onikoyi, who's an agriculturalist and founder of the Tree Initiative. Thanks a lot for being here today. Let me start with you, Adeola. First of all, what did you think of Mr. President's move, the removal of the Minister of Power? A lot of people thought it was overdue. You are an expert in that sector. What did you think about that move?
Thank you so much for having me. Just like you have mentioned, a lot of calls have actually been, made for the replacement of the former minister, call his former now, having been, relieved of this appointment a few days ago. By a lot of stakeholders. And the reasons are simple. This is a minister that took over from the former governor of Lagos State, Babatunde Raji Fashola SAN, who, because of the belief that Mr. President had in him, was given three, very, very important ministries to handle. And he has laid, a big foundation. He has been able to, leave what they will call figuratively the big shoe, that whosoever that will come behind him will need to try harder and harder to ensure that he meets up with that. So now that Mr. Salim Mama was inaugurated on the 21st of August, 2019, a lot of stakeholders have observed that he has not been able to meet up with that. What I was told is that he tried his best, but only that his best was not, enough to face the enormous challenge in that power sector.
Same question to you, Shola. Of course, the agriculture minister was also removed from office. I did see a couple of saying, we didn't even know we had a minister in that sector. Did you feel like you had one since you work in that sector, especially since this administration has hinged a lot of his talk about diversifying the economy on agriculture? What did you think of his time there?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think for the agri sector, it's been a kind of misfortune, so to speak. The minister that was removed yesterday was not even meant to be there in the first instance, because by all standards, just like Audugbe, it was a square peg, a square peg in a round hole. So it wasn't really cut out for that sector. The agri sector also requires some technicalities, and you have to also have a grasp of the current trend in that sector to be able to deliver. You will recall that before the advent of this administration, we had one of the best agri ministers that this country ever produced, in person of Akin Adesina, who ended up as the president of the African Development Bank. One of the premise of his appointment into the African Development Bank was the performance he was able to make in Nigeria as Minister of Agriculture. And you will agree with me that Akinwumi Adesina brought in a lot of innovations into the sector. One outstanding innovation was the Growth Enhancement Support Scheme, which was meant to, create a national database for farmers and then provide a vehicle for, equipping farmers to produce more. And then, Akinwumi Adesina was able to marry the macro and the micro components of agriculture together. Nanono on his own, since he came into office, did not really come with the mind of learning or relearning some things about the sector. He wasn't ready to accommodate the stakeholders in the sector. He didn't actually wanted to know the gains that we've made so far and how to, sustain those gains. And that was what I think was his major undoing, at least looking at it externally, because I know there will be some other internal issues that resulted in his removal yesterday.
All right, Adola, power has been probably the biggest cog in the wheel for Nigeria for so many years. People don't seem to understand why this cannot be fixed. We did have some moves being made by the previous administration about, privatizing certain discos and all of that. People expected that to be built on. It's still very confusing for a lot of us why we are still where we are. The present administration made a promise of at least 10,000 megawatts. I think it was by 2020. We're a year after that now. We don't even know where things stand. Where I am now, I'm currently using a generating set. So that's just a testament as to where we are. We have a year and I think 5 months or a couple of months, I beg your pardon, to go with this administration. What's possible still? And what kind of minister or head of parastatals or head of that sector are you expecting to see that can actually do anything in less than 2 years?
Okay, thank you so much. It's very, very important that for the benefit of our viewers, do a bit of a background and lay a foundation as to proper understanding of the power sector. In the power sector in Nigeria, particularly, we have three strata. The first stratum is the generation. The second one is the transmission, and the third one is the distribution. The generation are the companies. Is made up of companies who generate electricity through thermal, through gas, or through hydro, or through any other means, and sent to the national grid. The national grid is the one that depicts or that shows transmission. So it is you viewers who have noticed that those high tension wires that spread across the country. They are the ones that help to transport the power generated by the generation companies into the grid. The grid is located in Oshogbo, and they are the ones that will help to take from that grid to the substations, and from that substation to the transformers that we all see in our various areas. And that is when the work of the distribution, come into play. And that is when you see your discos coming to connect or disconnect as it will be. So having laid that in foundation, it's important that we emphasize that it is only the generation and the distribution that are privatized, because it's very, very important that we put this record straight. Okay, so the transmission, which is like the middleman, if you allow me to use that word, is still in the armpit of the federal government. So it is not always true to say that the power has been privatized, because it's only two legs of the three legs that are privatized. And the one that is still in the armpit of the government is the one that connects, between the generation and the distribution. I've advocated this a number of times, that what we are supposed to look at critically is that transmission as well. As we are looking at generation and distribution, we need to look at the transmission, because a number of the generation companies have accused transmission, because that transmission is like a space, it's like a basket that has capacity. Anytime they generate more than what that capacity can contain, it usually goes off. That's when we have what we call national grid. In this year, we have had over 5 collapse of that national grid. So the generation companies usually complain that they are not being able to generate up to their capacity, because they have been told by the transmission not to generate so much that will collapse the grid. So that grid needs overhaul. That grid, I've heard a lot of stories about what government is doing about that, you understand? But truth of the matter is that the government needs to look critically into that grid. Since the privatization of the distribution in November 1st, Friday, November 1st, 2013, we have had over 130 collapse of that grid, and we cannot continue like that. Okay, now talk about the number of years that the government has are left. I believe that although the move that the President Buhari made by relieving Mr. Salim Maman of his appointment is a good one, but I felt that Mr. President woke up somehow late to that reality. I'm an optimist. I still believe that a lot of things can be done, but the president has to be now to be so sincere about what he wants to do. The person that is moved there, that is Abubakar Aliyu, is a minister, is a junior minister, if I am allowed to use that word, Minister of State for Works and Housing. He's working with Babatunde Raji Fashola. So the point I'm now trying to raise now is that one of those things that Mr. Fashola usually do that time is stakeholders. Every month, he meets with stakeholders, particularly in the distribution company, and they move that stakeholders, even distribution, areas that we have in Nigeria. Every month, he listens to them to hear of the challenges they have, to advise them on what to do, to brainstorm and cross-fertilize ideas, and that has been one of the reasons he was able to achieve what he achieved. But Mr. Maman Saleh did not do that. It's on record. He didn't do that, and I believe the person that has come, if he does that, I will be able to have major. But fact of the matter is, I will not deceive you. It is not going to. What Mr. President did is not going to change the Nigerian situation, because what we have on ground is far, far more than that. Let me quickly say that so it doesn't look like I sound like a pessimist. We have over 200 million from the available statistics people. Up to this morning that I'm talking to you, we are generating less than 4,000 megawatts. Lagos alone needs over 10,000 megawatts to run properly as an economy. So that we are having a new minister now will not change that fact. But one thing I know is that it's likely to lay a foundation as to how we think about, laying the right foundation, doing the right thing, so that at the end of the day, everyone will be happy. Power is so key, not only the Nigerian economy, to even the living by the Nigerians.
All right, Shola, just like power as well, it looks like agriculture is also one of those sectors where long-term planning is very important. You don't just wake up and make orders and expect things to change in a couple of months or a year or anything like that. One of the biggest problems people have had with especially the agricultural sector is the fact that we haven't seen any sort of proper intention with regards to policy from this government on what they want to achieve. Like you mentioned in the last administration, we had a minister who we had a sense of where he was headed. For a government that's been very, very vocal about their intention in agriculture, are you happy with policy away from even the minister, whoever is in charge? And are you happy with the policy direction of the government? If, for say, we have a new minister now who decides to act on it, even?
No. My answer will be no, because this administration actually took off on the wrong foot. When I say wrong foot, I meant that they technically threw away the gains that the last administration brought into that sector. When they came in, some of those innovative ideas and, policies, especially if we remember very well, what we called the ATA Nigeria, Agricultural Transformation Agenda Nigeria, which was just launched about a year before the end of that last administration. This administration came in and threw it away. And then again, the last administration engaged a technocrat in that ministry who knew what he was doing and was able to, put in place a policy. But for this government, it has been somersaults and, change of policy. I'm not even sure that there's a policy. Let me quickly add here that I am also technical advisor to the vice chairman of the Senate Committee on Agriculture. So I am involved in agriculture, even at that level. What I've seen consistently is the fact that we have an agriculture ministry that is overwhelmed with its responsibilities. And I would like to, explain why I said that. If you observe very well, we have a lot of interventions coming from the central bank in the agri sector. Central bank doesn't have any business in agriculture. All that central bank needs to do is to make funds available for the sector. The central bank does not need to intervene in the agri sector. It's not a good policy of government. So you see these interventions coming in as anchor borrower for rice farmers. Central bank is also the one overseeing rice farmers. You see anchor borrower for sorghum farmers. You see interventions in the dairy sector. All these are not, they are actually out of place. We just need an agri ministry that understands what it is doing. So I think the most obvious thing is that there's no synergy in the ministry itself, which ought to coordinate the sector. And that is a result of the fact that the government does not have a simple, easy to go through agriculture policy. And that is why we have a lot of somersaults in that area, and we've not been able to do much. But the good thing about the agriculture sector is that there can be time for redemption, because we still have 21 months to go in this administration, and a lot can still be achieved. Agriculture has a lot to do with seasons. And then if we have somebody who is thinking right and somebody who is ready to be a team player, or somebody who is ready to work alongside stakeholders, we can still put this country on the path of food, sustainable food production and food sufficiency. Our challenges has always been the fact that we don't really plan in this country. And that is why when we had the issue of the border closure, rice became a major issue. And this is a country that can actually produce sufficient rice, not just to feed our population, but also to export to other African countries. Our rice import bill is too much and outrageous. And one would have expected that for a government that understands that, effort will have been put into that to make sure that as at now, 6 years into this administration, we ought to have had sufficiency in the rice sector. Let me quickly also raise the fact that we remember in the past when we had challenges with sugar, we had a National Sugar Development Council. In my last 2 years working in the National Assembly, we've tried to bring up a bill for the National Rice Development Council, a dedicated council to look at the rice production, monitor, evaluate, and even improve on what we have. That alone would solve a lot of problems. You are talking about an import bill of about $2 billion for rice alone in a country that can actually produce it. And we are not doing it. And some things are missing. And I've always argued that the CBN intervention is not enough for that sector. What the CBN can do at best is to intervene. But what we need is a policy, a structure that will drive that specific commodity that takes a huge chunk of our foreign exchange. So I think changing the minister or whatever may not actually affect policy. It may, give us a bit of a push in that sector. But most importantly, this administration must sit down and clearly tell us where we want to be in the next 20 months remaining in this administration.
Thank you very much, Shola. Thank you very much, Adeola. I mean, I was hoping for some optimism, but I think being realistic makes more sense. So thank you very much for your hard truths. We just can hopefully hope for the best going forward. We're going to take a break now and be right back. Please don't go away.